we decided that I was going to develop this lower right-hand corner piece with the tree dark against a lighter background, but with this triangle smaller. The hills maybe about that same size, but the tree bigger and more sky. Now, one of the things I have to think about is that I don't really want to have my sky 50% of the piece. I want to have either the land bigger than 50% or the sky bigger than 50%. And if the sky is what we want to be emphasizing, I'm going to need to make those hills feel a little bit lower than that. So I'm going to pull all this down a bit further. So let's see what we can do about this drawing. Okay, and I'm going to freehand most of this and then come back and carefully draw that tree. But the hills, let's just do a measurement on here. I think this is a 16 by 12. Yeah, so this is halfway right here. And I'm going to just put these little marks to remind myself that I need to have that come a bit below that. Now, we also liked this hill shape where we had a little hill come up, drop down. And so if we are going to have a little more sky, let me just get that painting thing a little further out of here, a little more sky than we've got hills. And let's see. Yeah, so this side here, we can start it just below half. And I'm going to bring it down. It's a little bit dangerous for me to be doing this freehand, but I'm feeling like I can do that. This is going to come up a little bit. So it might hit halfway there. All right, so that gets us so that this is, and let's just make sure here. Yeah, I'm right at 6. I'm halfway at this point, but for all the rest of this, the land is a little bit smaller than the sky. So we've got this, feeling of it being a little bit smaller. And now my corner down here, we're going to go quite a bit smaller with it. And it'll also allow me to pull that tree over here a little further. And so that's going to come down sort of like that. And then I really liked a lot of what happened in this, but I want to emphasize something a little bit more, and that's rather than having this almost the same shape, let's fan that just a tiny bit more. So it can come, let's have it come right about to here and start a little bit lower there. And it rolls up very slightly. Let's see if I can do this. Just sort of eyeball to where I'm going. And since I don't necessarily want an absolutely straight line, it's easier to sort of do that. And then there's one other sort of veil that comes in through here that I really like, that comes almost off of this top. Doesn't really show until it gets down in here. And then it's going to fan out as well. So then we have these sort of fanned shapes. And then our pathway, once again, I don't necessarily want this to break this absolutely in half. So let's see, my 16. 8 would be absolutely half. Let's have it start here at about 9. And then come over, yeah, about this far. And then it's going to turn right here and come up and over this little hill and end up down in there. And I'm just sort of seeing about halfway through all of this back side of that. And it's wider as it gets down into here. Sort of flattens out in and over that hill. I'm going to let it come a little bit wider there, and then it's going to go narrower and narrower as it gets back to this back side. And the feeling of it maybe rolling over that hill just a little bit. So, as you're putting in these shapes, you think about how it is forming the shape of the hillside. So the shapes and the light are both going to be really important. Now, there is another sort of road that cuts through here, I'm not going to put it in. I don't think that we need that. Now my tree's going to come back into here somewhere. Maybe be about that. And we were going to bring it up and above. How far up above do we want to take it? I do want it bigger. You know, it's fairly small in there, and I want it bigger, and we just barely overlapped on that. But it felt like it could overlap even a little bit more. So the shape of this, outside of the shape of this tree, is really pretty interesting. Oak trees, you know, have this gorgeous shape to them. I'm always fascinated by oak trees. I've got a big one in my backyard and I love the thing. But this feeling of, maybe this can come out even a little further there, of an umbrella shape almost as that branch structure comes out. And down in here. And then there's a big branch that works its way through. So this trunk comes up and wraps out, and oh, this needs to come even further out here. We need to come way out here. Okay, Margaret, this is what happens when I freeform it. Sometimes you end up with stuff you don't really think you want, but a little bit of erasure is fine. I just don't want to be erasing a lot of stuff, because the more I erase, the more I'm going to damage my paper. And that line here, we didn't like that line. So this tree has sort of a break spot there between those two branches. And then this one goes almost straight. It's got a branch that comes off, continues to work its way up into here until we get just into there, and then it opens out and one branch goes off this way. Some of them go the other way, and then they slowly start breaking out into more. And I don't want to do too much of that drawing on here right now. We'll do more of it after we get doing the final. I just want to know where this is, because the temptation is going to be to do too much work with this tree branches, and although they're very, very important, they also shouldn't take over the entire painting. Although that tree is going to be the center, our center of interest, isn't it? Now this branch here has another buddy that comes off. This is a little bit bigger than what I'm drawing it, and it goes off that way. All right, and that side of this, maybe some little branches come almost at that same point. All right, now this one, there's actually a third branch that comes off low down in here, but this one goes off, and it goes up and down. It's not totally straight. That's the other fun thing about oak trees, is that they sort of bend and grow and go back and forth. And then branch comes up this direction. I'm not going to draw those clouds in because they're going to be much easier to just freeform as we go. That's going to come down this way. There's a branch that comes off and runs downhill here, which I like. It's the other fun thing about oak trees, is that they don't just go straight up, they bend and come back down. And then there's a third trunk that comes off, leaving just a little bit of space between him and the other guy. Comes through here, comes off to this side, bends. There's actually some bending right back in there as well. Okay, and it's going to have some branches that go down this way. These guys come up and pass that. And this is going to work its way back this toward the left, and some more wrap downs. This is going to come and cross through there. And some of those go up into there. Okay, I think this is going to give us enough information. Going to be some smaller branches that run down into there. Enough information to be able to paint this. I'm not sure I like this really dark bush right there, but I do like some of these others. So let's put those in. And I like some of these down in here. So they sort of go up and down, and maybe there's a little, I like that little low bush that's right in underneath of here as we build those branches out into there. And some of this, the hill behind will be visible in behind there. Now if I don't have that there, maybe we can have one of these here and maybe one more right there. Now if we've moved this over, I suppose we could have another bush somewhere in here. All right, anything else that we should put in here? I'm not going to worry about any of those fences. How does that feel? This feels like this needs to still come even bigger down in here. It's going to come forward faster if it comes through there. And then we were going to let another, oh, maybe we don't want it that big. So, because what we're going to do, we're going to let that curve back this way a little tiny bit. There's a bush there that I'm not going to put in. And then I had another little road, this little road coming through here. And because we're seeing it from the side, it's not going to be as fat. It's going to dive back behind these bushes. Ah, yes, I like that. And then it's going to come back up and over the hill right by this tree. And run in here and then maybe disappear off into there. And because we're seeing it from the side rather than straight on like we see there, it can be a little narrower. And maybe we can let this sort of show that it's a little dip in the hillside there where that comes up and over. And this too could maybe have a little dip. Just this tree trunk, I'm feeling like it needs just a little more interest. Yeah, it's got some bushes there, maybe some bushes right on the other side of that pathway. And then that pathway comes through that hole. And there's, yeah, there's more branches that are going to be in there, but this gets our basic. So I think I've got this ready for its first coat of paint. And we need to think about, okay, so what are we going to do for that first coat of paint? And because we can see through this tree, I can bring the sky down right through that tree and across that top. Did we want these bushes here? No, I don't want those bushes there. That's going to be cloud. We have no bushes there. We could maybe make this hill come up. Yeah, let's make that hill come up even a little higher there. I want it higher than that one. I want to be careful about, you know, we're going to have a cloud come through here, and I've already done some erasures, so let me just erase that again. Let me just bring this down and have it lower. That other, the other bush can be in here. And then those play against each other there. That's that hill. Okay, so there's no more bushes up there. There's this bush here, and this one maybe will have a tree trunk visible like this one here. Okay. Some of those can have tree trunks. Do I like this? I think this is going to let me just let this sit for just a minute. And oh, I want to take some of my line off here so that it's not too strong, because after I get paint on there, I'm not going to be able to erase that as easily. The paint sometimes helps hold the graphite down, and so the easiest time to erase is now before you have any paint in there, if one needs to erase. Let's take this branch up even a little higher. Yeah, okay. And bring that over a little bit more. Then that tree trunk has a little bit more room to do its thing in there. And yeah, so we're actually going to see this come, yeah, do that. There'll be a little line that sort of comes down into here where these two are joining. Yeah, that's a space there. Okay, Margaret. Stop with this for right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is sky and clouds, and then we'll start working from there because my foreground is a little bit darker than the sky. So, and the blue, you know, could be underneath of this. I could actually bring the sky down in here further if I wanted to. Do I want to do that? It'd have to be very thin down here. You know, I think I'm actually going to paint them separately. The one thing that might happen is that we might get a little bit of a line right here where they join. So I might bring some of this in and then just ease it out of there. I need a clean rag before I can do that. Looking at my piece, I decided that I'm going to paint the sky like this one, but bring it all the way down to this second hill. Because with aerial perspective, the further away something is, the more bluish it'll be. I just have to be careful that I make a graded blue and it's not very dark blue down in underneath here, because I don't want that too strong and I want to keep it pretty light. But I do feel like it needs to come down in here, and that'll save me from having a weird line up on the top here. And then my next decision is, are those clouds going to be painted where I paint up and around them, or am I going to pull them out with my rag? And then I could put another layer of blue on here if I need to make these guys stand out even more later. But if I'm going to pick these out, I have to do it like immediately so that the blue doesn't have a chance to get into the paper and I can actually get them out clean. I could leave part of it and then come in and lift around the edges of it, and that's what I did when I did the little preliminary piece for you. So maybe I'll play it that way. In the meantime, I'm going to turn my page upside down, and the reason why is that it's easier for me to grade dark down on the lower side than at the top, because the paint wants to run this way. And then I need to remind myself that I'm painting to this line, which is this line right here, and that's where I'm going to wet the page from that point down. And so I will, yeah, I'm going to have to just not have this in the picture. But we are wetting the page, and hopefully this brush, I had used it for something else. Yeah, it's nice and clean. So I'm going to start at, oh, no, it's not nice and clean. Okay. I had brown in it before this, so I need to get that brown rinsed out of there. It's okay if a little bit of it's on that part of it, but I don't want brown down in here. And it's going to go right in underneath of that tree, because remember the tree is darker than this. I need to be sure that I get it wet right up to that edge, because we're going to just gently, and you know, I might have to do this and turn it and do it one way and then turn it and go the other way. I'm actually going to do that because I said that it was easier for me to grade down, but in reality it's easier for me to put the dark up above and bring it down and then turn it and make sure that that dark stays up there and doesn't bleed down too far. So let me just get this wet all the way to the top. I have two blues mixed up. One is cobalt blue with just a little bit of phthalo in it, which is what I'm going to start with. And my other is cobalt blue and ultramarine blue mixed together. And is that clean now? And let's just make sure that this brush gets that brown all out of it. And any big holidays in here, I see one up in this corner. Looking at this from the side, okay, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Do I want to put it down with this? Yeah, let's go ahead and I'll do it with the flat brush. The flat brush is easier for me to get a lot of paint all the way across, and let's hope I actually made myself a big enough pile of paint, because this is a pretty good size area here. So if I start with this dark at the top and then slowly start working my way down without putting any more paint in it or very little more paint in it, let's just make that a little more dark, a little lower, and then we'll be grading from there. And it's going to be a little darker in the middle because we're going to have a big puffy cloud here and maybe one over there, and I'm going to pick some out of that other part of the sky. So I can just not go all the way into this corner where that puffy cloud is going to be. And remember, we're painting all the way through this hill. And so that's my puffy cloud. And let's get that out of there. And we're going to have some clouds here, and oh, I like that cloud coming up that way, and I like that little thin bit of cloud there. And then we'll get this the rest of the way down into this hill very lightly. And now the other thing, when you got a flat brush like this, you have to sort of come from the edge and then ease out into the middle with it, or you end up with that, a very hard straight line, which we don't want. Okay, now I can augment those clouds that I started by coming in with my rag and going, oh, let's just let this guy come up and really run its way up through here. And this guy here can be even more of a little thunderhead. And there was some here that I liked. And maybe just touch, and that's going to tell us that yes, there are clouds up here that are making these dark patterns that run through those hills a little bit. Another little bit. Time to leave that alone. I think so. I think so. We can, maybe some of these can ease off of that just a wee touch. Okay, good. But what it feels like it's going to need, and I don't know if I can do this without having problems, let's just sort of bring that up to the edge of that, and then I can take that rag to it and ease those corners. That just felt like it needed to go a little darker in there for that to work. Yes, that's making that cloud work better, to be just a little darker there. And I've got to be careful, where am I starting and stopping with this. And now let's take that rag back to this and just ease those edges where I put my brush marks, and ease that edge where I put that brush mark, and maybe just pull a little bit through there. Okay, anything else that I need to do? Make sure that's plenty dry there, plenty dry here. And the clouds are not purely white. Clouds are not purely white. They have dark sides to them where pieces break through here. So it's okay that I don't have this totally lifted out evenly. I don't really want it to be. And we happy with that? I guess we are. Should that cloud come down? Oh, there's a dark, maybe. Okay, I'll just ease that a little tiny bit. Okay. And that's going to be behind this tree. The other thing, when I was looking at this, I think this tree is going to need to come even higher up in here. I can easily do that, but I don't want to touch anything right now when it's wet, when it's totally dry. Then I can think about what I'm going to do. But I do see one thing here, that we wanted this to come down to that hillside. So let me just ease that. So let's really come into that hillside. And there's going to be some bushes there, so that's okay there. Ooh, and this, I'm going to just bring this down into this tree trunk, because if I don't, there's going to be a little bit of a hard line right where that hill comes through there, and I don't want that. So just using the tip of my flat brush, I could bring a little bit of that color right down into those tree trunks. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for today. That gets us a good start on this. So we've got the sky pretty much in. We'll be working on those clouds some more. We'll think about whether we've got to go darker on any of that sky, but in many ways, I would like to just leave it the way it is because it's nice and clean and beautiful.